The harsh glare of the museum's main hall lights bounced off the polished marble floors as I watched the robotic arm extend, a laser emitter humming at its tip. It moved with terrifying precision toward the canvas on the easel, towards what the world believed was Rembrandt's The Gilded Man. My hand, calloused from half a century of holding brushes and cotton swabs, clenched involuntarily. My name is Elias Thorne, 72 years old, and until yesterday, I was the head art restorer for the Harrington Museum, a position my family had held for 5 generations. This, Adrian Caldwell, the museum's slick new director, announced into a forest of microphones, his voice amplified across the live stream, is the future of art preservation, AI-guided laser ablation. Faster, more precise, entirely objective, a stark contrast to the, let's say, traditional methods that have, until now, slowed our progress. He didn't need to say my name. Everyone in the room, everyone watching the live broadcast, knew he was talking about me, about my family's unique process, about the revelatory varnish, a secret formula passed down through generations, kept in a coded, leather-bound book that allowed us to feel the history of a painting beneath our fingertips. He called my approach a dinosaur that was an obstacle to modernization. Yesterday, Caldwell had called me into his new, minimalist office. "Elias," he'd said, not even offering me a seat, "your methods are simply too slow for a modern institution. We need disruption, buzz, visitor numbers. You spend months on a single piece. Our new tech partner, ArtSkin AI, can do it in days." I'd looked at him, a man fresh out of an MBA program, focused on metrics and social media engagement. He saw paintings as assets, not living histories. Some things, Mr. Caldwell, cannot be rushed. The life of a painting is a delicate balance. He'd waved a dismissive hand. Nostalgia. We're moving forward. Your services are no longer required. Just like that. 50 years of dedication gone. My great-great-grandfather had first treated this very Rembrandt in 1898. My father had last touched it in 1974. And now, this man, who understood nothing of art or its true preservation, was dismantling my legacy. The laser hummed, a soft, menacing sound. Caldwell continued his spiel about efficiency and innovation. The robotic arm descended, and a microscopic beam of light touched the ancient canvas. He had no idea what he had just unleashed. He thought he was modernizing. He was, in fact, destroying. And he was about to expose a secret that only my family's dinosaur methods could have ever truly understood. My family's lineage of restorers wasn't just a profession, it was a calling. We weren't simply technicians. We were historians, detectives, and alchemists. My great-great-grandfather, Arthur Thorne, began the tradition in the mid-19th century. He was obsessed with the subtle language of paint and canvas, believing that a painting spoke volumes through its layers. He developed the first revelatory varnish, a complex blend of natural resins, essential oils, and secret compounds that not only protected the artwork, but, in its slow curing process, subtly reacted to the underlying pigments. The real secret wasn't just a formula. It was a method of application and removal. Each layer of varnish, each delicate stroke, was an act of conversation with the painting. Through touch and smell, trained by generations, we could feel the history of the canvas. My father, William Thorne, taught me to distinguish between a 17th century lead white and a 19th century zinc white, simply by the faint scent release when a warm, dampened cotton swab passed over the surface, or by the subtle resistance felt through the brush. The varnish itself, over time, would tell a story. An authentic antique painting, treated over centuries, would develop a deep, resonant feel. A newer painting, even skillfully aged, would feel dead or flat beneath the hand, its varnish lacking that slow, organic intermingling with the layers beneath. When Adrian Caldwell arrived 6 months ago as a new director, he came with a mandate from the board: modernize or perish. He brought in consultants, installed digital interactive displays, and talked endlessly about democratizing art through technology. I saw it for what it was, a cheapening of a profound experience. He'd immediately clashed with my team. My methodical approach to restoration, sometimes taking a year for a major work, was anathema to his fast-paced, data-driven vision. He'd scoffed at my leather-bound almanac, dismissing it as quaint. "Mr. Thorne," he'd said during one tense meeting, gesturing at my father's meticulously recorded notes in the book, "our AI system can identify pigment composition and varnish layers down to the molecular level in seconds. It renders these handwritten observations obsolete." I tried to explain. An AI can identify Mr. Caldwell, but it cannot interpret. It cannot feel the wrongness of a texture, the dissonance of a scent. Art restoration is not merely chemistry. It is intuition informed by history. He didn't listen. When the contract for ArtScan AI, a tech startup specializing in laser-based restoration, landed on his desk, he seized the opportunity. It was cheaper, faster, and offered a splashy public relations angle. He scheduled a massive live-stream press conference, announcing the dawn of a new era in art preservation, with the Gilded Man as the inaugural project. I saw the writing on the wall. My family had maintained the Gilded Man for over a century. It was our reputation. My father had passed it to me with a solemn warning. "This painting, there's something about it. Always be vigilant." He'd never explicitly said forgery, but his notes in the Almanac hinted at profound unease. The night before Caldwell fired me, I sat in my quiet studio, the soft glow of my lamp illuminating the open pages of my father's restoration log from 1974. His entry on the Gilded Man was brief, almost cryptic. "The varnish feels dead. The texture is wrong. Suspect forgery. Advise minimal contact." He'd used the exact phrases he taught me to identify a deception, minimal contact, that explained his light hand, his decision to only clean the surface gently, never venturing deep. He hadn't just suspected, he'd known, and he'd protected the truth by simply doing nothing to disrupt it. Caldwell thought he was replacing an old man with a new machine. What he was really doing was taking a scalpel to a century-old secret, a secret my family had protected, not exposed, and the machine in its hubris was about to reveal everything live for the entire world to see. For the first few weeks after my dismissal, I kept to myself. My studio, once a bustling hub of quiet activity, felt eerily silent. I took solace in my coded books, rereading my father's entries, his meticulous observations. News of Caldwell's modernization efforts at the Harrington Museum filled the local papers and art blogs. Every article featured him prominently, extolling his vision, often with thinly veiled jabs at my antiquated methods. The Gilded Man, the supposed Rembrandt, was prominently displayed as the star of the new AI restoration process. Daily updates, complete with drone footage and time-lapse videos, showed the robotic arm meticulously working on the painting. The public loved it. The museum saw a surge in visitor numbers and social media engagement. Caldwell was hailed as a genius, but I saw the subtle signs of impending disaster in the very updates he was so proud of. The laser, designed for extreme precision, was too precise in the wrong way. It didn't have the nuanced judgment of a human hand, the ability to feel the resistance of different varnish layers or the underlying paint. It operated on a pre-programmed algorithm, identifying varnish by chemical signature and stripping it layer by layer. It couldn't differentiate between a top layer of genuine 17th century varnish that had yellowed with age and a more recent, chemically similar layer applied by a forger 2 centuries later. To the AI, it was all just varnish. I pulled out my father's Almanac again. His 1974 entry on the Gilded Man wasn't just about the dead varnish. It contained a specific, almost offhand remark, a faint, almost metallic tang, like old coins, uncharacteristic for a genuine Rembrandt of this period. My father, with his incredibly sensitive sense of smell, had detected a faint odor that suggested something amiss. A modern forger might replicate visual aging, but replicating the subtle chemical degradation of 17th century linseed oil versus 19th century zinc white pigment beneath layers of perfectly aged varnish? That was almost impossible. And that metallic tang strongly suggested zinc white. Zinc white wasn't commonly used until the 19th century. A genuine Rembrandt from the 17th century would rely on lead white. If the AI, in its pursuit of perfection, stripped away too much, it would eventually hit that underlying layer. And the moment it did, the game would be over. Caldwell, in his relentless pursuit of spectacle, announced a grand finale, a live-streamed global press conference where the final, pristine The Gilded Man would be unveiled, with a live demonstration of the ArtScan AI laser performing the very last touch-ups. Experts from around the world, art critics, investors, and every major news outlet would be watching. The night before the grand event, I stood on my small balcony, looking out at the glittering lights of the city, one of which was the imposing structure of the Harrington Museum. I imagined Caldwell inside, probably rehearsing his triumphant speech, utterly oblivious to the silent, invisible bomb ticking inside his crown jewel. I didn't need to do anything. My revenge wasn't active. It was passive, a patient watch. It was knowing the truth and waiting for arrogance to expose itself. The live stream began precisely at 10 a.m. I watched it on my laptop, a cup of tea growing cold beside me. Caldwell was in his element, pacing the stage, gesturing dramatically at the now almost fully restored Gilded Man. The painting looked remarkably vibrant, colors popping, details sharpened. He had, to the untrained eye, achieved a miracle. And now, Caldwell announced, his voice swelling with pride, for the final, exquisite touch. Our ArtScan AI will demonstrate its unparalleled precision, completing the restoration of this timeless masterpiece. The robotic arm, bathed in a dramatic spotlight, descended once more. The audience, a sea of journalists and art world dignitaries, leaned forward. The laser pulsed, a tiny, focused point of light. It swept over a small section of the painting near the subject's hand, where a subtle darkening had persisted. The AI, programmed to remove discolored varnish, detected an impurity and vaporized a microscopic layer. And then it happened. On the massive high-definition screens flanking the stage, showing a magnified view of the laser's work, a ripple of something wrong appeared. The spot where the laser had touched, instead of revealing pristine 17th century pigment, showed a startling, almost luminous white, not the warm, creamy white of ancient lead. This was a stark, almost clinical white. A low murmur started in the audience. Caldwell, still smiling, seemed not to notice. But the lead scientist from ArtScan AI, standing beside him, gasped. Her eyes, fixed on the screen, widened in horror. Then one of the art critics in the front row, renowned expert from the Netherlands, pointed. Zinc white. That's zinc white. His voice, normally quiet, boomed through the hall. Chaos erupted. The murmur became a roar. Journalists scrambled, shouting questions. Caldwell's confident smile froze, then collapsed, replaced by a look of bewildered panic as he stared at the screen, at the small, undeniable patch of 19th century pigment revealed beneath the supposed 17th century varnish. The laser, in its robotic impartiality, had stripped a molecule too far, revealing the irrefutable truth. The Gilded Man was a masterful forgery. The scandal exploded across every screen, every news channel. Rembrandt forgery exposed live on Global Stream. AI restoration uncovers centuries-old deception. Within hours, the Harrington Museum was engulfed. Caldwell, once the darling of the art tech world, became a pariah. The board, furious and facing unprecedented public humiliation and potential lawsuits, fired him within 24 hours. The ArtScan AI contract was immediately terminated. The painting, now a symbol of monumental fraud, was removed from display. 2 days later, my phone, which had been silent for months, rang. It was the acting chairman of the Harrington Museum Board, a woman named Eleanor Vance, her voice strained with desperation. Mr. Thorne, she began, we are in a crisis. The painting is a disaster. The museum's reputation is in tatters. We need your help. My help? I asked, my voice as calm as a summer lake. Yes, you're the only one who truly understands that painting. We need you to assess the damage, to tell us if it can be salvaged, to tell us anything. I paused. This wasn't about saving the painting anymore. This was about something far more profound. I will consider it, I said, but under my terms. She agreed without hesitation. I returned to the Harrington Museum a week later. The halls, once buzzing with Caldwell's disruption, were quiet, almost haunted. The remaining staff looked at me with a mixture of relief and regret. The Gilded Man was in my old studio, carefully placed on my own easel, the patch of jarring white a stark indictment of Caldwell's hubris. I examined it, not with a microscope or a laser, but with my bare hands, my fingers gently tracing the exposed surface, my nose inhaling the faint, metallic scent my father had once detected. The AI had done my family's work for us. It had unwittingly validated generations of subtle suspicion. I spent 3 days meticulously documenting everything, not just the physical damage, but the historical context, the subtle clues my father had picked up on, the scientific impossibility of zinc white in a 17th century Dutch master. And then, for my official report to board, I did something my father would have appreciated. I copied the final entry from his 1974 restoration log, the one where he noted the dead varnish and the wrong texture. And then I appended a new note of my own, in my father's familiar script, a direct quote from a secret book. Texture is wrong. Varnish feels dead. Suspect forgery. Advise minimal contact. My report, delivered to the board, was devastating. It confirmed the forgery beyond any doubt. It detailed the AI's fatal error. And then, it quietly revealed my father's entry. His slow method was never just about preservation. It was an ongoing investigation, a patient vigil. He didn't just know, his entire family line had suspected. My family's legacy wasn't just about restoring art. It was about protecting its truth, even when the truth was inconvenient. The board, stunned, launched a full historical investigation. It revealed that the painting had likely been replaced with forgery during a period of turbulent museum management in the early 20th century. The original Rembrandt was never found. My father's subtle, coded warning, made 50 years ago, was lauded as a testament to true connoisseurship, a quiet triumph of human intuition over technological blindness. Adrian Caldwell became a footnote, a cautionary tale. He faced multiple lawsuits, and his career was ruined. The ArtScan AI startup, their reputation in tatters, quickly dissolved. I didn't take my old job back. Instead, I established the Thorne Institute for Traditional Art Preservation, funded by a newly humbled Harrington Museum. We teach not just technique, but the philosophy of preservation, the delicate art of listening to the canvas. Young restorers, eager to learn the true craft, came from around the world. I still use my father's coded book, now with my own additions, teaching a new generation to discern truth from deception, not with lasers, but with their hands, their eyes, and their hearts. From my studio, I could no longer see the Harrington Museum as a symbol of arrogance. It became, instead, a beacon of rediscovered wisdom, a place where the quiet language of art could once again be heard, understood, and truly protected. Some knowledge, I learned, cannot be digitized, cannot be rushed, and certainly cannot be replaced by a machine. It lives in the quiet dedication of generations, waiting patiently for the moment it's truly needed.